This is the Dreyer podcast, a podcast all about siblings and the people, places, and pop culture that raised us. I'm Ryan, and my co-host Jacqueline, my younger sister, will be here in just a second. But first, in this episode, we are going to spend the bulk of the episode talking about our beloved elementary school, Southwood Park Public School. And while it sounds like we are getting nicher and nicher, I promise you this episode is for anybody that wants to spend time reminiscing about the hallways of their elementary schools. But before we get into that topic, I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about my outrageous attempt at designing a house with photos to prove it on DreyerDrive.com. And Jacqueline will spend some time talking about the time that random strangers showed up to her house and asked her for a tour of the inside of her house while she was doing laundry. And then, of course, we'll wrap up this episode the same way we wrap up every single episode on the Dreyer Drive podcast, with an unhinged text message from a family member. And this week's unhinged text message comes from our younger brother while he was trapped in an elevator. Let's do this. Up until this point, the most time-consuming thing for the podcast is actually editing out all of the gaps, because there's all these little half-second silences through everything as we try to find our thoughts or switch between things or there's always these gaps. And so it ends up taking an hour and a half to go through the entire episode, maybe even sometimes 2 hours to go through the entire episode. And I'm just cutting these little slices out to speed up the episode, to bring it a little bit closer together and just make it sound a little bit smoother. Mm-hmm. And even I tried paying somebody else to do it one time.
Yes, I remember.
So I found a piece of software that does it in maybe 37 seconds.
Ooh.
I'm
you're my
part
life
of me is
back.
Really excited. We got it. Part of me is really angry that I didn't find this, 9 months ago.
I feel that is such a family trait to not be able to be fully happy for something because you feel like you were inefficient in the past and you're just annoyed about you should just be happy that it happened. You're like, you know what? Great. From now on, it'll be perfect. But there's that little part of you that can never just be satisfied with what you have. It's like, oh,
it's the main part.
So much time.
That's not the little part. That's the main part. There's a little part that's well, maybe it's going to be okay. Maybe I can find some optimism in this. And you're like, no, can't believe I wasted all that precious time of mine where I could have been sketching hoodies and architectural plans.
Which is interesting because I think you would consider yourself an optimist, correct?
For everything and everyone else. For everything that's not mine and for everybody that's not me.
Got it. Okay.
But I think
it's self-loathing.
Yeah, pretty much. I think if I had to categorize, I think it would definitely be an optimist. I try to find the good in the situations. I try to see the way out. I like to be we can do it. No, if we just try a little bit harder, we could definitely do this. I'm that guy.
I'm very much I think I'm always there's got to be a way out of this. I'm a fixer, big time fixer, which is really annoying for some people when they don't necessarily want a solution when they're talking to me. And I'm already notebook out ready. I'm okay, so if you move this to this and here, and it's I didn't want that. I actually just wanted you to listen. I'm no, I can fix this. I can fix this for you.
It's so connected to something that we talked about last episode where I was do you do this too? Do you sketch fashion lines and write full movies, scripts and the camera angles and stuff? So, you know this because we talk but I don't know if I've mentioned on the podcast. So we are currently in the search for land here in Okinawa where we are going to then build a house. And so we thought we had land, and then it was in a good place. It was close to the ocean. And then around the same time, so two things happened at the same time. One, Noah's ballet teacher told us that they just bought land very close to where we were just looking. And then so we started looking and are there other areas for sale? Is there any other land for sale in that area? And so we found these two plots of land side by side, and they were pretty affordable. So we're can we just buy both? It would be comparable to the first piece of land we're looking at. I don't want anyone to think that we're just balling out of control over here, right? It was
okay,
we're looking at one piece of land or two pieces of land that would equal about the same price and same area as the first piece of land. But they're oh, sorry, we just sold half of it. And we're oh, okay, well, maybe we'd still be okay with half of that land. Turns out Noah's ballet teacher bought the other piece of land. So she said she had bought land. She was talking about that one in particular, but we had already been but this is pretty nice. And so we set up an appointment to go and view it. And it's small. Like it's a little bit bigger than regular Japanese land, but it's small by anything that we would know back home, especially by the standards that you're used to in Utah or in New Brunswick, where I used to live, where it's like, oh, everyone just has acres and acres, right? We're really interested in it. We've decided to start like putting in the paperwork to see like if we can get it. And so we met with a bunch of house builders, and we met with some on like one in particular on Friday that we think that we're going with. The amount of time that I have spent trying to design a house from the time that we decided on that land to right now, like I'm literally just sketches. And I'm like, I got it. Pass me that piece of paper. Like writing on the back of envelopes, as architects do, on the back of like a bank statement. I'm like, I need to get this out of my brain right now. And I cannot stop fixating on this problem, and I'm getting frustrated that I can't solve the problem because the way the land is shaped, and like the ocean is very close, so we want to make sure that we're facing the ocean, like all these different things, and we want to maximize the surface area so we can build a carport and build a house on top and like build a third level, and like I'm trying to solve this problem that I'm so not even remotely qualified to address in any way, shape, or form, and then being frustrated that I can't solve it. I'm like, why can't I do this?
This story is hurtful to me because I do, in fact, own an architecture firm. So it does feel like this is a problem that I personally can help you solve, and you are just dying trying to do it yourself.
Yeah, that's like, that is so accurate. And I think you talked about optimism. That's also like just the unhinged optimism where you're like, no, I can do this. I can design a house. I can do this. I can totally do this. And like I said, then getting frustrated that I can't do it. We just went on a walk. Seiko and I, minutes before this podcast jumped off today, we were out walking around with Naya and we're like looking at houses. And I'm like, yeah, I like that, but like this. And I'm indexing all these things in my brain that I'm going to add to my sketches when I get home. Mm-hmm. I should show some to you. Like I should totally...
Please don't. Hold them up in front of the screen right now.
Let me send it to you on Messenger.
And maybe I can describe it.
This is the side profile, the house that I've designed.
Oh, wow, Ryan, what a...
I'm embarrassed showing this to you. Look, my face is red. I'm embarrassed.
What an architect. Look at you. For people who cannot see that with us, which is everybody, it is truly just a rectangle. But on top of the rectangle is a gym/office and some railing.
Excuse me. There's some other writing there.
Oh, sorry. There's also going to be a garage. So I'm glad that you got the basics in. Like, my house for sure needs a garage, for sure needs a gym office. Anything else, we'll worry about it later.
And now can I show you what I actually have in my brain as the actual image?
Yes.
So this is what it equates to.
We need to put this in the show notes. So it's like the expectations versus reality. Okay, yeah. Yeah, I can see where you're going with this. We're definitely putting this up as expectations versus reality for sure. People need to know the level of delusion that our entire family operates under. Like, yeah, I build a house, design a house, I can do that. Easy.
Yeah. So, and I'm sure if you look very carefully at the drawing that I did, you can see that there's stuff on the backside coming through. That was an aborted plan. I was like, no.
Oh.
Let's turn this paper over again, as architects do. Let's turn this page over right on the back.
Scribble. Like, these are workable plans, right? Like, I can just take these to the city and be like this.
I'm bringing this right now. We have a meeting with the architect this Thursday. I'm just walking in with this. Not the actual picture. Not the picture of the completed house that I've also included.
This is my vision. I don't know if this is something that you can execute. It's just a lot of really complicated angles. It's a rectangle.
Yeah. And just like the complete undermining of the work and effort and training that has gone in, the years of experience. And like, when I'm just like, I can do this. Noah, pass me one of your Crayola markers. I need to draw this house plan on the back of this bank statement.
It's like, because Justin is the architect, obviously I'm not the architect in the situation here, but when he's like, comes home real tired from work, and I was like, you just clicked your mouse button for 8 hours while you're tired. Anybody can do that.
You need to talk to Ryan. He's doing this by hand.
He's going old school. Is he using a ruler? No, he is not. Only one fat Crayola marker.
So that's what we've been up to. We've been up to the last couple weeks since last time that we chatted. We've been looking at properties, driving around, stepping on properties that we don't own, like walking up, like looking around, like how far can we see the ocean from here? And and then just driving around looking at houses, again, to fuel my inspiration for these sketches.
I don't know. I assume this is only common in Utah. We built our house, and throughout the building process, people would want to come and just walk through while we were working on it. And without any, it's not like they were letting us know, I'm a realtor and I want to bring a client by, or any, people would just be walking by and be like, hey, can we come in your house? Sometimes they would just walk in.
Trespassing.
Just trespassing. And I remember one time the house was finished. We were living in the house. We had a knock at the door. And it was a couple, and they were like, we've always just wanted to see the inside of this house. Do you mind if we walk through real quick? And I'm looking around, there's literally pounds of laundry on the kitchen floor. I was in the thick of 2 little kids at the time. And because I don't honestly know to people, I was like, sure. And these 2 strangers just wandered through my house and judged it. I'm sure they have lots of notes.
They're taking photos. Yeah, I think that's definitely a Utah thing. Anywhere else, they would be arrested. But when I was living in New Brunswick and I was doing the full renovation on the house out there before we moved in, because we took probably 2 months before we moved in from the time that we bought it, so I could renovate most of the house. There was a time where I was down in the basement and I was waiting on a floor delivery. So not the whole floor, I was waiting for the flooring delivery. So I was waiting for the truck to pull up, and I'm downstairs and I'm messing around getting some stuff ready, and I could smell cigarette smoke, and I was like, oh, they must be here and they must just be smoking a butt in the driveway before they come in and do this delivery. It's coming in the house. Maybe I need to go and tell them hey, maybe smoke off the property. And I went from the basement, I hit the stairwell or the stairs going up, and I turned left, and I saw someone's feet eye level. And I was like, what the heck? I looked up, and the previous owner of the house was standing on the stairs just smoking a butt. And I'm like, excuse me, what are you doing? And she's like, I just wanted to see what you were doing in here. And I'm like, you can't do this. This is my house, and you sold this house to me. She's like, yeah, but I just wanted to see what renovations you're doing. I'm like, can you please step out of the house? First of all, you don't own this house anymore. Second of all, you were smoking in this house. Get out. What? This is not okay. And then she stepped maybe 2 yards out, and I was like, more. Get off the property, please. You're not, I know you used to own this house. If there's something that you need, let me know, but you can't just show up and walk into the house. This is not okay. This is trespassing. And so anyway, she left. Fast forward, I don't know how long we were in that house. Not even 2 years, I don't think, before we sold it. So we're getting ready to sell it. And wouldn't you know it, her daughter showed up one day, and she's like, hey, can I take a tour of the house? And I'm like, no. She's like, yeah, but you're selling it, right? I'm like, yes. And she's like, well, can I tour it then? I was like, you're not even gonna own it in a couple months. I'm like, that's not the point. No, you cannot come to the house.
I still live here.
Yeah. She's like, no, but just come on. I grew up in this house. I'm like, yeah, it's totally different now. She's like, yeah, I know. That's why I want to see it. I'm like, what? Which one is it? Anyway, I didn't let her in. I was like, if you're really serious about this, get a real estate agent and come to one of the viewing. Come to a viewing, and you're fine. And she's like, wait, don't put it on the market. I'll get the cash and I'll pay for this. I'm like, okay. And I was like, you know what? Talk to a real estate agent. But just the fact that their family would just show up. And when I was tearing down the garage, some other guy showed up. He's like, I spent a lot of time in this house. I'm like, where did you come from?
One time we were having work done on the house, and we were having this my great room has this giant fireplace. It's the center of my entire house is this massive fireplace. And Justin has this thing where he invites contractors to the house and then leaves me in charge of them. And when they say, does this look good? I say yes, because I just want the contractor out of my house as soon as possible. And then Justin will come home and be like, why did you let them do this? Let them do it. I have no idea what they asked me about.
This fireplace is facing outside. But here's another one, right?
And there's often a language barrier. And the man who was doing our fireplace, he was Nicaraguan, and massive language barrier. We could only talk a little bit, but he practically lived in my house for 2 weeks. That's how long it took, because he was placing each rock and he was taking great care. The entire 2 weeks, he called me Miss Vicky. I don't know where he got the idea that my name was Miss Vicky, but he'd want me to come down and check on it all the time. He'd say, Miss Vicky, Miss Vicky. And then I'd come down and I'd be like, looks great. I don't know what it's supposed to look like. And right at the end, when it was just about finished, he called Miss Vicky, come down. I came down and I said, it looks beautiful. I said, these rocks, because it's a stone. I was like, the rocks are amazing. And he looked at me dead in the eye. He said, I'm going to do some accent work again. Sorry. Sorry, everybody.
Please don't.
He says, no, east the rocks, east the man. And true. I can't deny it. I honestly loved that guy. If he wanted to stay on for another couple of months, I would have let him.
You want to just keep living rent free in our house? I would also let that happen.
I'll find some more things you can stick stone to, whatever you want. The dog walks by covered in stone.
Your kids, Mom, I can't see. I woke up. My head is so heavy. Oh, you put stones on your eyes.
Do you sometimes like fantasize about going through Dreyer Drive, that house, and see what it's like knocking on the door and being like, hi, I used to live here, like your friend?
Yes, but not for the reason that I think that you are thinking, because we just told a story that was in the same vein. I don't want to go in to be like, can I just look around? Because I really don't care. But can I tell you all the stories? Right? It's really what, for me, is what it is. Like, you're
going to need to sit down.
Yeah, you need to sit down. But let me tell you about the things that happen in this house. Like, that's why I would want to do that. And I just don't.
Can I just go around and chisel through the paint and show you all the paint that is underneath your beautiful living room wall?
Then I will leave and you will hire an exorcist that will come in and banish all the evil spirits from this house that you've now purchased, which I'm guessing now, that house was sold the second time since Mom and Dad moved out. I'm guessing that new family is in there. I went by, I think I told you this, but I went by when we were there for Christmas. I was like, I need to run to the grocery store. There's a grocery store, a football throw distance away from the Airbnb that we were staying in, but I drove 30 minutes away to go in the snow. It was like a snowstorm to go and look at.
I just want to see.
Yeah, I did. It's all it was. I just wanted to see and 100%, if there was somebody standing in the driveway, I would have got out of the car and talked to them.
For real?
Yeah, 100%. I was mentally, I was practicing lines while I was driving there. Like, how can I start up the
Hello, how are you?
Like when you were a kid.
Realized?
Yeah, like when you were a kid, like, remember Mom and Dad used to make us practice phoning friends?
Yep.
Hello, Mrs. So-and-so. May I please speak to friend's name? Like that, we would practice that, right? And that's what I was doing on the drive down. I was like, oh, hello, is this, do you live here now? You
said something about hiring an exorcist, and I was like, wait, did we ever think that Dreyer Drive was haunted?
I was really wanting to come up with an edgy graffiti tag name.
Okay. It does track.
How edgy can I be with this? And I'm literally going through the dictionary. And I'm not looking for blatant...
where all the edgiest people start.
Yeah, I opened up the Oxford.
1 moment, please. Let me get my dictionary. I am an edgy man.
And so I am going through the dictionary, and I'm not looking for something that's blatantly and obviously offensive. I'm looking for something that only the people who know would know. Yeah. Let me be like, this guy, he gets it. I get to the W's. I'm not going to say the word because of the story, but I get to the W's and I find this word that meant this evil spirit in another language. I like it. Evil spirit, that's me. And so for a day, I practiced writing this evil spirit's name all over this paper, right? And then I had like one of those psychopaths in a movie where they're break into the apartment, they're like, oh my gosh, look at this. And it's just pages all over the wall. That was me, but it was different variations of me writing this evil spirit's name. And so I think Mom asked me, she's like, what does it mean? And I told her, she's like, you shouldn't write that. It's an evil spirit. I'm like, come on, Mom, come on. That night, I swear.
No.
That night, I swear I had an ultra realistic dream that this evil spirit was swirling around the room, blowing the papers off the wall and tormenting me to the point where the next morning I woke up and I took all the paper. I'm like, I should never have written the evil spirit. I balled it all up, went outside. I may have even burned it because I'm like, this needs to get away from this house immediately. So that's my story of.
So I want to know what the word is.
This house is evil spirit free. So,
there's
a movie called it. There's a movie title that is the same thing, I believe. I believe it's called The W Word.
Okay, well, I'm gonna figure this out. Crispies, everybody's gonna try, and we're gonna try and guess what it is.
And then you're gonna go into the bathroom, turn the lights off, and in the mirror, you're gonna say it 10 times.
Say it 3 times.
Homework.
Yeah, say it 3 times. So I was just gonna say, Mom was really funny about things like spirits and ghosts and things like that. Like we were 0%, 0.000% allowed to play with Ouija boards. And that was something that mom was very adamant against. And I don't know how many sleepovers I had to call mom to pick me up because they would get out the Ouija board. And I was so terrified that I was going to bring home an evil spirit or something. Like, why? What
kind of sleepovers were you going to? Aside from like sleepovers in the 90s. Like, I guess that's part of it. But like
sleepovers in the 90s where you would just go to someone's house. You had zero parental supervision whatsoever. And it would just be like 10 girls in a basement. Ouija boards came out.
An inappropriate movie playing in the background.
And Carrie was playing in the background. We're playing Ouija boards. Girls used to freeze each other's bras. I don't know if you were aware of this tradition. Is the first
I'm going to surprise you with this one.
You know, no? If you were the first person to fall asleep, you would get your bra put in the freezer so that when you woke up in the morning, it would be really cold. And that was like, ooh. I was allowed to stay for that part, but I couldn't stay for the Ouija board.
But this board where this piece moves and points to different letters. And
like Bloody Mary, no, that's not okay. Any of those things were not okay in our house.
I'm okay with that. I'm okay with look, I had to run him with an evil spirit. So hey.
You know what?
I'm making that a rule in my house. When Noah gets home today, I'm going to be like, Noah, if you ever go to a sleepover and they pull out this board with letters and this little thing that slides across it, I need you to call me.
I, to this day, have never used a Ouija board, and I kind of feel like I want to.
I don't even think I've ever seen one. Like I've seen it in like in movies, like in movies, but like in front of me, like no, I've never.
Would if someone showed up to a party that you were at as a grown adult man, they're like, let's get out the Ouija board. Would you participate?
I would call mom.
Can you pick me up? Ryan, you live on a different continent.
You are 16 to 20 hours of flights away from us. So
that are probably going to get canceled and the whole thing. Wow, I did not think that's where today was going to go, but here we are.
Yeah. Well, has anything else occurred over the last 2 or 3? I don't remember the last time we talked because I think we missed.
We were a week out because last week I simply forgot that we had a podcast. Period. And
I'll pretend that doesn't hurt.
I'll text you 3 minutes beforehand being like, so I don't have anything prepared because I forgot about this whole thing that we've been doing for the past year.
I sat here and practiced lines. I turn on the camera and I practice some material for an hour.
Good. You're going to be so much better than me this time. But I do have something prepared today and I'm actually really excited about. Let's get our question out of the way first. Actually, I was thinking about our names. Has mom and dad
when and why you're like our names?
No, this is something I think about all the time because I am extremely judgmental about people's names. Just everybody should know that your name, your children's name, your grandparents' names, I will be very judgmental about it. I'm even quite judgmental about the 5 of us and how our names flow together because I think I have some notes for mom and dad. But did mom and dad ever tell you like the backstory, why your name is Ryan, anything like that? Why your middle name is what it is? So
we're just fully putting my government name. That's the purpose.
You don't have to use your middle. You can make one up, but yeah, sure. Go ahead.
So the only part that I remember is I think that mom wanted my first name to be my first name. So she wanted Ryan. Dad wanted my middle name to be my first name. Okay. And I guess they went back and forth. I guess there was a little bit of an argument of some sort or a little bit of debate over, and I believe that it was after somebody, but I don't know who and I don't remember at all. But then at the end of the day, mom, I guess, won and my first name was Ryan and dad's choice for first name was my middle name.
And so you have 2 daughters. Yep. What was your process in naming them?
So for Noah, it was to choose a name first and foremost that can be pronounced easily on both sides of the family. So I think if you've listened to this podcast before and you know any bit of the story, but so Seiko, my wife, is Japanese. Her family's clear, like they're Japanese. They are from Japan. None of them speak English except for Seiko. And so we wanted something that like, okay, there's no like changing of the name. Like, for example, in Japanese, there's no distinction between R and L. They just all sound like L's. And so like, I didn't want someone with a name that on one side, they're pronouncing it with an R and spelling with an R. And on the other side, it sounds like an L and sometimes it's an R and sometimes like, I just didn't want that confusion. And it just had to be pronounced very easily. So Noah, that was the first thing, was pronounceable by both sides of the family. Second was like not an ultra cute name. And so like I practiced, no joke, we've established that I like to like run these crazy situations in my brain where I'm like, I wonder, where like she's entering a boardroom or entering.
That's what yes, 100%. I've done that. That's how I named my kid.
Walking onto a stage, accepting an award.
Introducing themselves.
Yeah. And so we went with Noah for that reason, because it sounded a little bit stronger. There were Japanese females, like Noa it's a female's name in Japan. So it's like, okay, so it checks that. Yeah, we're probably going to run into some issues in the future where people are like, Noah, how old is he? And that happens all the time. If I'm on the phone to a doctor, I'm like, I need an appointment for Noah. They're like, yeah, how old is he? I'm like, well, that's actually a she. But anyways, I was okay with that. And the spelling doesn't have the H. So like, whatever, we're okay with that. Naya, actually, her name wasn't going to be Naya. It was going to be something else the entire time. It was going to be Mio. Okay. And like the whole time we're like, yeah, Mio's like, it's a cute name. It's a good like little sister name. It flows well. Like Noah and Mio like sounds like a dynamic duo of some sort, comedy duo or like singers or whatever. And then there was just like randomly one day we were driving home and Seiko, we were just going through lists and lists and lists of names. And Seiko was like, Naya? And I was like, wait, say it again. How is it spelled? Is it Naya or is it Naia? And she's like, Naia. I'm like, that's amazing. Like, say it again. She's like, Naya. I'm like, oh, that's so awesome. And then so like we practiced, like, no joke, I practiced yelling at the kids. I'm like, Noah, Naya. I'm like, oh, so easy. There's no.
You're like, I love yelling at them. This sounds
There is
great.
no cognitive load. It's such an easy switch from Noah to Naya, right? Like Noah, Naya, right? So easy. Two things we failed to prepare for with Naya. Oh, before I go into that piece, the other thing we had to do is we had to choose Japanese characters to go with their names. So that's a next level of like, there's so many combinations and there's good luck combinations, the number of strokes, like this whole thing. So we chose characters for Noah that's like closely aligned with like some like nature stuff. And then for Naya, we did something very similar. We ended up going with something that's very much aligned to nature. So we like that. But so after practicing yelling at the kids before Naya was even born, the part that I didn't plan for, the two parts that we didn't plan for, one, just everyone's going to mix them up. Like nonstop, Noah and Naya are phonetically so close. It is nonstop just mixing them up. Like, well, you saw it at Christmas. Everyone's like, Naya. And then now you really are yelling at them because you can't figure it out. So didn't account for that. We're getting good at that. We're getting better at that. The other part that we didn't account for is how close the sounds for Naya and Ryan in Japanese are. So Ryan in Japanese is Naya, Dayan, Naya, Dayan. And so like, if you're yelling through the house, like, are you saying me or Naya? She's like, you. Okay. And then like, anytime my father-in-law comes here, it's just a running joke. Seiko will be like, Ryan, can I get the keys to the car? And my father-in-law will be like, why would Naya have the keys to your car? Like, and it's just nonstop. Ryan passed this. Like, how can Naya pass that? Right? Like, it's just nonstop. So that part didn't account for, and just how easy it would be to mix up the names. And then the final part I'll say is, I don't know if we'll have another child, but now we are really painted into a corner.
Yep.
And you would know all about that. And by the way, if you and Dan didn't do what you guys did, I wouldn't feel so pressured to keep it up on our side.
What we did is that and without planning, each named our kids names that all start with the same letter. And I didn't mean to do that. Well, first of all, let's go back to my name, because that was the start of the question.
I just went.
You just went for it. Actually, I know what my name was originally supposed to be. Mom had a scrapbook where she said her first boy would be named Dane, actually, and Daniel. Dane is from a book called The Thunderbirds that Mom liked, and so she originally wanted to name him Dane. My name was originally supposed to be Brandy Lee.
Oh, we did talk about this before.
Brandy Lee was my
Lee.
original name, Brandy Lee. And my name, Jacqueline, simply came from right before mom had me. She said that she had a friend who was also pregnant. And she said, oh, what are you going to name her? And she said Jacqueline. And mom was like, okay, actually, that's my name now, so I'm going to use it. And so I don't know where that friend ended up. I can only assume that they never spoke again because mom definitely stole my name from her. I will be grateful forever because I just don't feel like Brandy Lee really represents the person that I am today in any way, shape, or form. Maybe the Utah part a little bit, but everything else, no. But for my kids...
Also, your drink choices are definitely Brandy Lee category.
It's giving Brandy Lee. For my kids, though, we didn't have like huge... I think there's people who have like really connections with the names that they're using and they have a lot of meaning. For me, again, it was same as you. I wanted them to have names that got them taken seriously. So that was like number one most important thing. And they each have middle names that are family names. But other than that, they're first names. And I started with Addison. And then I had Andrew. And I only really meant to have two kids. Once I had a boy and a girl, I was like, cool, got my matching set. I don't need to have any more children. And so then when we got pregnant with Aaron, I had painted myself into a corner and really couldn't do anything about it. I did want to tell you, though, one of the reasons I picked Andrew specifically, because again, my kids also have really just kind of plain run-of-the-mill names. I didn't want to do anything out of the ordinary, but Andrew specifically, because every Andrew I've ever met has always been really kind to me. And so I had really good feelings about it. And you had a friend named Andrew, and I don't know if you know this, but we would always go to these dances.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
We would always go to these dances and we were really close in age. So we, sometimes our friends groups would overlap or whatever. And during my most awkward years, which were most of my teenage years.
All of them? Still ongoing. We've heard about you at the car wash. We know that this is still going on.
It's still awkward, but we've established that I did, in fact, look like Millhouse for several years.
Cargo pants,
as
sunglasses.
Teenager. But your friend Andrew always made sure that I never missed a slow dance. If I was standing on the wall and I had friends who were really pretty and always got asked to dance, I would say I had like maybe a 60-40 success rate on being asked to dance. But Andrew always asked me to dance. And I always remembered what a relief that was as a teenager to be at. And he was a cool guy too. He was one of your friends. Like he didn't have to do that, but he was just really nice.
Should I dial him up? Should I call him right now? Should I call him right now on a FaceTime call and be like, yo, my sister named her son after you, dog?
Literally named my kid after, just because I was like, you know what? I'm going to have an Andrew, and that Andrew is going to be the meanest person I've ever met. He's the meanest person. So it did not carry through. That's what I was hoping for. It was like, every Andrew I've met has been kind and respectful and really caring. And then I had Andrew, my son, who is the meanest person I've ever met.
Maybe because he hasn't come across a blue sunglass wearing yellow vinyl sweater, cargo pants girl who's not being asked by others to dance. Maybe
with
that's
a mushroom cut.
Yeah.
I had a mushroom cut.
Well, it's just that, we've established that we really play to niches, and maybe that's the niche for Andrews. It's like any other time, they're just absolutely not that person. But that slow song comes on, that first few chords from Celine Dion song comes on, and they just scan the room for a Millhouse.
And they're like, that's the one, that sad looking Millhouse standing up against the wall.
And now I'll be nice. I will take pity on her and hope that they name their children after me in the future. Yeah.
So Andrew, from my teenage years, if you're listening, which I can only assume you are, just know that I think you're a really good dude.
I had no idea. I had never heard that.
Yeah, it's not something I really tell a ton of people because it sounds unhinged. Other Andrew.
It truly is. I'm using truly for this one because it is warranted. It truly is.
It's just like I'm going through names and I hear that name and I was like, oh, that name gives me like good feelings. I feel good about that one. Positive associations. Too often you hear a name and you're like, ooh, I knew that a kid by that name and I hated him so much, which is most names.
Yeah. Mine is usually like, that I know someone who went to jail with that name. No, that one too. I know someone who went to jail with that name. We got to stay away from that. So, anyway.
Okay, those are the questions for today. Let's jump to the topic that we have in the title of this episode, so people tune in specifically to hear about this one. I'm really excited about this one.
Okay.
But I have some preamble first before I can introduce it.
I would say I'm shocked and surprised, but those words exactly were spoken in last week's episode. Although the preamble was for the question.
I love a preamble. So, okay. I'm going to read you something and then give you some information about it before we actually jump into the topic.
What's my role here? Am I guessing or am I just listening?
Right now, you can just listen. And when I start giving you some more context, you'll clue in, okay?
Okay.
All I really need to know, I learned in kindergarten. Does this sound familiar to you?
Oh, you started. I thought you were just proclaiming that. I'm just kidding.
Does that sound familiar to you at all?
Sure. Like maybe I've heard it before, but
okay.
Not in the context of this podcast.
I'm going to read this. All I really need to know about how to live and what to do and how to be, I learned in kindergarten. Wisdom was not at the top of the graduate school mountain, but there in the sandpile at school. These are the things I learned. Share everything. Play fair. Don't hit people. Put things back where you found them. Clean up your own mess. Don't take things that aren't yours. Say you're sorry when you hurt somebody. Wash your hands before you eat. Flush. Warm cookies and cold milk are good for you. Live a balanced life. Learn some and think some and draw and paint and sing and dance and play and work every day some. Take a nap every afternoon. When you go out in the world, watch out for traffic, hold hands, and stick together. Be aware of wonder. Remember the little seed in the styrofoam cup. The roots go down and the plant goes up, and nobody really knows how or why, but we are all like that. Goldfish and hamsters and white mice, and even the little seed in the styrofoam cup, they all die. So do we. And then remember the Dick and Jane books and the first word you learned, the biggest word of all, look. Everything you need to know is in there somewhere. The golden rule and love and basic sanitation, ecology and politics and equality and sane living. Take any one of those items and extrapolate it into sophisticated adult terms and apply it to your family life or your work or your government or your world, and it holds true and clear and firm. Think what a better world it would be if we all, the whole world, had cookies and milk about 3 o'clock in the afternoon and then lay down with their blankies for a nap. Or if all governments had a basic policy to put things back where they found them and clean up their own mess. And it is still true, no matter how old you are, when you go out into the world, it is best to hold hands and stick together. So this was word for word a poster that was very familiar to me when I was a kid. It was written by a man named Robert Fulghum in 1989, which would be the exact year that I was in kindergarten. It was written as part of a book of essays that became a #1 bestseller on the New York Times bestseller list. It sold 7 million copies and made Robert Fulghum overnight a celebrity and a millionaire. It spawned everything from merch to a failed TV show to other books, even a musical that they tried to create from this exact.
Wow. What was the failed TV show?
It was just like they tried to formulate it into something that would work and it never really worked, so it was abandoned. But I do have a really fun fact that Bart Simpson writes, I did not learn everything I need to know in kindergarten in one of the starts of The Simpsons. And Robert Fulghum was a member of a rock band with Matt Groening and Stephen King, 2 people that we have definitely talked about on
what
the podcast
the
heck? The rest of the book are just essays on how to deal with other people through the lens of what you've learned in kindergarten and school. And I realized that's exactly what elementary school is. So I think it's finally time that we talk about Southwood Park Public School.
Why would you not give me a heads up on this one?
Because we're just going in fresh. We're spitballing. Before we get started, though, Southwood Park Public Schools, obviously this public school that we went to, elementary school, it's grades kindergarten through 8th. And this poster hung on the wall in Southwood Park Public School. In fact, I looked up the exact one because there's different iterations. The one that I don't know if maybe this looks familiar to you at all, had an apple on it. Oh, I don't know if you can see that. Had an apple on it. Sure. And had the kind of like different fonts for each of the ideas. And it hung on the walls in Southwood Park for many, many years. So it just got me thinking about how elementary school specifically sets the foundation for how we learn to treat people for the rest of our lives, whether we like it or not. And so that's my framing. That's my framing device for talking about our beloved Southwood Park.
And I'm watching the statistics for this episode, and 99% of our 3 listeners just dropped off.
No, this is one of those things, like, I've said, I kind of hope that people who listen to the podcast like see us as kind of surrogate siblings to them. Like maybe they don't talk to their siblings as much, or maybe they don't have them, maybe they're only children or whatever. Like these are conversations you have with your siblings. And even if you did not go to Southwood Park, we've all been to elementary school. We all know how that goes. And I feel like the experience is pretty straight across the board. Everybody has the same experiences. Now, the other week we were talking about totems that we would use if we were building something for Ajax.
Yeah, we were specifically talking about the if we were doing pottery, like for the great pottery.
Sculpting.
Yeah, if we were sculpting, what would we make? And we had talked about, go ahead.
Mm-hmm. And one of the things that you brought up was this giant stone bear at Southwood, and I would like you to talk more about that. Yeah,
so I'm probably going to get some of the facts of the story wrong.
Well, this is lore. So that you can have as many wrong facts.
Oh my gosh. While you've been talking, I actually I went on Facebook to see if there is a Southwood Park like group, and there is. Yes. And lo and behold, there is, first of all, they just celebrated Yes, I'm literally looking at the same picture. It's so wild. So I'm going to do my best to tell the story as I remember it being told to me throughout the years of being at elementary school. So Southwood Park Public School, I guess we now know it's 56 years old this year. But I think it was the very first day of school for Southwood Park. The principal or the vice principal driving to school and was killed in a car accident. And they memorialized him by putting a giant bear statue on the grounds of Southwood Park Public School. That's
also what I heard. But again, these are stories that like 8-year-olds are telling each other on the ground, in the playground, while we climb all over this stone bear.
So here we go. I'm going to read it to you right now, okay? Henry Hugh Sellers. I found it as we've been talking. Henry Hugh Sellers, vice principal. In 1972, Vice Principal Hugh Sellers died in a car accident. In his memory, the Sellers family placed a granite bear sculpted by E.B. Cox in the playground. He brought to his school a vast fund of knowledge and experience and a broad cultural background. He could turn a serious negative situation into a cheerful, positive one by sheer force of personality. It doesn't say anything in here about it being like going to his first day of school at the first day of the brand new school.
Part of the lore to me also was that kids often said he was buried underneath the stone.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Buried.
And funnily enough, I don't think the Southwood Park mascot ever was a bear. They really struggled with finding their identity.
You were the bears?
I don't know what they are
Bruins.
now. We were the Stallions and the Stingers for a while.
We were also the Southwood Park Fighting Irish, I think, at one point.
Which is really interesting because it was a French school.
We were the Southwood Park Fighting Irish. Here we go. But we were, I believe, at least for basketball one year, for sure, we were the Bruins.
When you think about Southwood Park, how would you categorize your experience? You're there for 9 years, I guess, kindergarten through 8, and then you graduate in high school. What was your experience at Southwood Park like?
How about I go through some of the singular experiences that might.
Yes. And then we can kind of cobble together what that means.
Yeah. So 1, do you remember Beardo 649?
Oh, 1000. I've told my kids about Beardo 649 multiple times.
So there was this teacher, I can say names and stuff, right?
Yeah, honestly, go for it. We still talk to a lot of these teachers. And
yes,
even if we don't talk to those teachers, we talk to teachers who will then go tell the teachers that we're talking about.
So there was a teacher, Mr. Blakelock, who rode his bike to school every day. So we called him Mr. Bikelock.
Icon legend.
Yes. And so he would grow his beard out for a year. And you can imagine how long it gets. And then he would hold a raffle in the school. You would buy tickets, 25 cents for a ticket or whatever. And then the winner, whoever's name was drawn out of the raffle tickets, would get to shave his beard in any design they want. And he would have to wear it for that for a day. And then I believe
it was the hottest ticket.
I was like, you wanted that. You wanted to hit Beardo 649. And so a couple of the rumors / pieces about that. 1, I believe the money went to charity. 2, I don't know if he was just pulling our legs, because he liked to challenge people's thinking, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And he said that he was making a pillow from the beard. You got these kids just like wanting to shave his beard and then thinking that he would collect all the beard clippings and stuff them into a pillowcase. And then
we would be like, what are you going to do with the beard, Mr. Blakelock? And he'd be like, I'm making a pillow.
And we just took it. Like that was it, right? So, but he would say things like, he would tell us the earth was flat. And he would tell us the earth was flat simply to get us thinking about it and talking about it. I think, right? That was it. But my favorite Mr. Blakelock story is, we've established in other episodes, I was really into basketball, loved it. I thought I was going pro. Like I thought that was my calling in life. And there was this one year where we didn't have, I must have been in I want to say grade 8. And we didn't have a basketball coach. And so Mr. Blakelock stepped right up. He's like, I'll coach them. And I'm like, yeah, like, let's do this. And I remember this one, we show up for practice and Mr. Blakelock is like, all right, guys, we are going to practice a haka. And I'm like, a what now? And he's like, in New Zealand, there's this like group of people and they do these things called hakas. And it's to like, respect, but also scare opponents. And I'm like, sorry, we're talking about basketball, right? Like shoot the ball into the hoop, get 2 points, go and play defense, right? So instead of practicing basketball, he had us practice this haka to do before the game. You know what I'm talking about? He's like, you're making crazy faces and like stomping.
The skinniest white kids you've ever seen.
Yeah. And so we go to the game, like the first game of the season or whatever. We've practiced this haka. We are ready. And the other team is like practicing their layups and like the weave drill, half court stuff before the game. And Mr. Blakelock is like, hit it, boys. And we're like, now? He's like, haka time. And so we like look at them down the court. They're not paying attention to us at all. And then we start going, hey, blah, 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 hey, blah, blah. And I'm not making fun of haka at all. Like I'm 13 years old.
You were bad at it.
It was my first time on a big stage. And they're looking at us like, what are these guys doing? Like, what is this? And we're like, all right, we've seen the Disney movies. We know that the spirit is within us to win this game. I don't even think we scored a basket. Like we got smashed so bad by the other team. And we spent all of our time. You want us to do the haka? We've got you. You want us to score a point? We did not think to practice that in basketball practice.
What an angel Mr. Blakelock was.
Yeah. So that's like something that jumps out. Like I'm just going through these like scattered memories. Also, I don't know if they would have had this for you when you were in the older years of elementary school. And just for a reminder, like most schools in Canada, like we usually go elementary school, high school, there's no middle school in between there. But our science room. So do you remember the science room with all of the jars? Yeah. And there were like pig embryos in formaldehyde.
You said it with a funny.
Again, playing the middle. I don't know if it's an A or an ER. Formaldehyde. So, but like, there were these like brains and embryos and like just weird things in jars all around the science room, which I'm sure now is highly illegal. But at the time,
only thing you ever really did in that class was like learn how to use a Bunsen burner. Like
if that,
we weren't doing anything else.
If that, because like our grades,
no need for that.
Yeah, and like let's get like our grades 7 and 8, like they would have been using the Bunsen burners to light joints in the classroom. Because like we had, remember, like there was like a divide that happens like a year after my age, where like the kids just got like good, but above us it was like there were random police searches of lockers when we were 13 years old because you just didn't know who had what, and there were knives and drugs and magazines. And
like the kids looked it too. I remember walking down the halls of Southwood as a younger kid, and they would also always put each graduating class on a giant picture down the hall so you could see everybody. And like up until just about your age, like those kids looked like they were like headed to the mines. They looked so
just came from them.
Like literally, yes, they looked so old. They looked like they had just worked a 10-hour shift on the assembly line. And when I became that age, I couldn't believe, like, I'm like, I don't feel like that. Like, do I look like that? And I think it was just, yeah, it's like you said, like, definitely Daniel's age, like that age group, they looked old. They were old looking kids.
Yeah, they had like full beards. They were definitely aged.
Were you part of Southwood Park's gifted program?
So I tested, this will surprise many listeners. I'm the listener. This will surprise the listener to hear that I actually believe that I did. So I believe that I did test into the gifted program, but at that time they had opened up another school somewhat close by for the gifted kids. And I think mom said like, nah, like his friends are here. We'll just keep them here. This will definitely pave a brighter future for this kid. Did not. Like, you've heard me talk. You guys have heard me mispronounce things like salmonella and semolina. Like
and
last
formaldehyde.
Formaldehyde. I just, like, you've heard, like, just the amount of times I just haven't clued in to the main topic that, but so you know that's definitely gone away with age. But yeah, I'm pretty sure I did. I was also part of the Gauss math program where
I was going to ask about
where
Gauss.
we would go into like, this other classroom would be me and this one girl, and we would go into this Gauss math program. I also remember, so this is not going to be directly connected to your question, but the teacher of the Gauss math program when I was there, it was a teacher by the name of Mr. Butt. And that's his real name.
Why am I still laughing at this? I am 41 years old.
There was a tagline that Nike used for like a couple of years back in the 90s. And I can't remember if it was kick some butt or just kick butt. And they were banned at Southwood Park because we had a teacher named Mr. Butt. And we can't wear kick butt t-shirts because clearly we're going to go and kick the teacher.
Well, I had to do, I'm not a gifted person. So I always think it's funny that they put me in the gifted program. I think
you can thank me. You can thank me for blazing.
Thank you for that. I honestly think for children, I think we were kind of well-spoken and very, very overconfident. And I think it's sometimes
the bar is so low. Let's be honest. Look, yes, the bar is so low when you're 9 years old. If you're like, hello, Mrs. Smith, can I please talk to Jason, please? And they're like, this kid is gifted.
And that's exactly what happened, was because I talk to teachers a lot, and that's always been the way I am. Like, I'm more comfortable with teachers than anyone. So I did have to go join the gifted program. And in my year for gifted program, we just went to the library and we had to play this video game for hours. And the video game was called Myst. And Myst
spelled with a Y, right? It was spelled with a Y, wasn't it?
And Myst is this game. The best way I can describe it is almost like a video game escape room, where you had to solve certain puzzles to move forward in the game, but you couldn't solve the puzzle until you solved this other puzzle that would give you the key and the pattern to enter into and it was the most frustrating experience of my life because I am not actually a gifted person. So I was up there with like six like 12-year-old geniuses, and then me just wanting to go back to class like a normal kid. Eventually they gave me like the guidebook that went along with Myst because they could see that I was struggling so very badly. But because I was like because I was well-spoken, I was relatively confident as a child. We would do these, I don't know if you remember this, in grade 7 and grade 8, we went to camps. In grade 7, it was, I believe, Claremont, and grade 8, it was Candelore. Do those ring a bell at all?
6 and grade 8?
Maybe a 6 and 8. One of them was Claremont, one of those Candelore.
Yeah, Candelore was the big one. That was like the grade 8 one,
yes.
I believe. And Claremont, I believe, was grade 6 or grade 7, yeah.
Claremont was the smaller one. I think it was either like a day trip camp or maybe even just like you stayed over one night. Candelore, you stayed over several nights. And when we got to Candelore, the kids who were your counselors were the kids who had graduated like the year before. And so they would be 9th graders coming back from high school to be the counselors. And the year we went to Candelore, they didn't have enough counselors. Someone dropped out at the last minute. And so the teacher decided to slot me in as one of the counselors. And if you want to be reviled and hated by everybody in your class, go to camp.
You were in there as a student. Yes,
I went to Candelore. I was supposed to be there as a student. At the last minute, they were like, Jacqueline, can you be one of the counselors? And I didn't realize that everybody was going to hate my
That is so nerdy. That is just the nerdy.
It's so nerdy. And not only that, no one respected me because I was in the same class as them. And I remember doing like, you do like the orientation, like, oh, get out your compass. And we're going to like do a little, I would try to talk to them and everybody would just tell me to shut up because
shut up, Millhouse.
Literally shut up, Millhouse. And to this day, I'm just like, oh, cringe. Why did I say yes to that? Why? Why did the teachers put me in that position?
Yeah. You wanted nothing more than to please those teachers, and that backfired.
That's really the problem. There were some teachers, we've said before, we were really close to a handful of teachers, and one teacher in specifically, I think we said her name on the podcast before, Miss Ross, our angel Miss Ross, who was just like the sweetest lady you've ever met. But I remember going to lunch with her and her other like teacher friends, and kid
pushing up your purple glasses, just be like, and let me tell you, did you guys hear about
like imagine how cool I felt just rolling up to school after lunch break and all the other kids are playing on the field and I'm like, sorry, I was at DQ.
I'm going to mainly cheese.
Mad about it.
I'm looking through, as you're talking, like looking at pictures of Southwood Park Public School and the flood of nostalgia of that little mini gym. Like it's not even like a full-size gym. So a couple things about that gym. One, I gave some pretty good speeches in that gym.
Yes, we were both president.
Class president. Like we were class president.
Can you remember what your class? Wait, what was your what's the word for it when you had to be your election speech? What was your election speech? Because I actually remember mine.
No idea, but I remember planting. I had a good friend at the time. His name was Stu, and Stu was like, "As soon as you're done, I'm gonna stand up and start clapping, and I'll get you a standing ovation, regardless of how it goes." I'm like, "True, like you are a friend," and. True to his word. When I finished, the second I finished, Stu like jumped up and he's like, woo! And then everybody stood up. Everybody stood up.
Poet Society.
And there were the students. So there was a girl in particular that went before me and she was livid because she knew Stu and me were close, that he was doing it just because of that. So remember that from that gym. I don't remember what was spoken, but I do have a couple of other really good memories from that gym. One was, I believe I was in grade 8 and there were grade 8 or grade 6. Anyways, I was one of the later years of maybe grade 8. And there was a group of cool girls. And I think we've established throughout my life, I've never felt like a cool kid. I've always just been like a cool girl. Yeah, like a cool girl. I've always been like just outside. Like I just always been like never really fit clearly into it. So anyways, these girls, they were practicing, I believe, Mariah Carey Hero as their song. And they were the cool girls. So they were the cool girls.
The way I can place what they look like, I can place what year this is, I can place everything.
Hand over the ear, like the two fingers over the ear as if they're wearing like a monitor, and they're singing in the hallways and they're practicing nonstop. And so I was the MC for a talent show, and they were going to perform Hero on stage in front of all the students for the talent show. And I was going out there cracking really like corny grade 8 jokes. I think Dad helped me write them. And so I introduced them and I'm like, and the cool girls, and like they go out there and the reality of the situation hit them. And now their volume is really low. They said they didn't need a mic because there's like 4 of them, right? So there's a hero if you look inside your soul. And the teachers are looking at me like, bring the microphone out to them. All right, I got this. So walk out with the microphone, stamp it down in front of them, turn to walk away, and I didn't realize the cord was wrapped around my leg. And so like first step, I just yank it, right? Because I'm hustling out there. I'm hustling out there. I drop the microphone in front of them. I go to hustle back and I yank the microphone with me. It slams to the ground, of course, makes the biggest bang, loud noise as the microphone slams against that wood stage floor. The girls are devastated. They run off the stage, instantly crying, run off the stage. And we go to recess because it's like a full morning or full afternoon thing or whatever. So we go to recess. The girls are talking so much crap about me. Like, we can't believe Ryan, he did this, he ruined it. And they wanted them to go back up on stage. They weren't sure if they were going to go back on stage, but I think they eventually ended up going back up there. But of course, they were rattled. It wasn't the performance that they were hoping to give, and it was all 100% my fault. So that's my little MC at Southwood Park ruining Mariah Carey.
To be fair, Mariah Carey's Hero is probably a little above their talent level. But...
their octave range.
When I ran for president, my whole skit, I did like a little skit to get people to vote for me. And I had 2 chairs. So we were on the stage and I put 2 chairs very far away from each other on opposite ends of the stage. And I put a toonie for people who are not Canadian. That is a $2 coin available in Canada. I put a toonie on each page.
On each page?
On each chair. On each chair there were toonies. So, and then I asked for volunteers. I purposely chose 2 boys. and brought them up on the stage and tied them together with this jumping rope, which is just like, is this the most elementary school thing ever? I tied them together with a jumping rope, and I told them, whoever gets the toonie, and I said, ready, set, go. And of course the boys ran in separate directions. The jumping rope was too short, so they were fighting, and finally one person got to it or whatever, but it took a while. And then I had my plants for my next trick. I had plants. I had plants in the audience who were girls, of course. And I was like, let's see if the girls can do any better, and brought them up, did the whole thing, toonies on the chairs, tied them together and said, whoever gets the toonie can keep it. And they calmly together held hands and went to one chair, picked up the toonie, and then went to the other chair and picked up the toonie. And I was like, this is just an example of what we can accomplish when we work together. Everybody clapping, cheers, clapping.
You dropped the microphone. Stu runs in. He graduated 2 years before, but he's there to support.
They're like, I don't even think we need an election. Let's just give it to her. It was so
a landslide. You won by a landslide.
Like I don't think I've ever recovered from that. That's the highest high point of my life.
Did you also go through the presentation? So I already mentioned this, but our grades and above, up until again about my year, there were some of like the bad kids. There was a drug presentation, and it may have been part of like Dare or whatever, but they brought in actual drugs. Like they're like,
yep.
It's cocaine. Yep. And they had like a baggie of cocaine stapled against some poster board under the word cocaine. I don't know if you remember,
it was the VIP program, Values, Influences, and Peers.
Sure. That makes that all sounds like it would. But like I remember the lights being off and the police were there and they're like, we're going to give you a presentation about drugs. And it was just drugs, drug after drugs. Like, this is called angel dust in the streets. I'm like,
angel dust? No.
Yeah, I'm not even joking. Angel dust, it's stuck in my brain because I think there was also like some real crime television show at that time, and like the whole thing was about angel dust. But like, yeah, I remember there being like actual drugs, I'm guessing, like stapled against this board. And I'm pretty sure someone from our grade stole it. No, I'm pretty sure someone from our grade stole one of the baggies of drugs. Like I'm not even joking.
Hey,
so I remember
that. Had a hard life.
There was also a year where they brought in these wild animals. And one was this like 20-foot snake. Like, I'm no exaggeration. This thing took like 12 kids holding the snake. But then one was also, I swear, like a bobcat. And they brought it in on a leash. I swear they brought in like an actual, like a cougar or something. And they're like, this is a cougar. I'm like, is this? So I remember being actually terrified. And I think they even invited kids up to pet it. Like, what?
I would almost guarantee people went up to pet it. In grade 5, we had to take like the Southwood version of sex ed, right? And these poor 5th grade teachers having to be like, all right, 11-year-olds, let's like teach you everything your parents have never said to you before.
I've been so terrified to talk to you about.
And I remember we were going to have this course, and also they were going to show the movie The Miracle of Life. And I don't know if people who have not seen The Miracle of Life, it shows a woman giving birth completely. There's nothing is pixelated. It is start to finish a woman giving birth. And for some reason, Mom decided that she was going to write this like very, very strong letter to my teacher and also like the school board about how she didn't think that it was necessary for me to take sex ed because she would teach it to me. Like, I already knew everything, which first of all, I did not, but that I already knew everything, so I shouldn't have to take the course. Whatever, she sent the letter in. And the grade 5 teacher read the letter to the entire class as an example of like, this is what a good parent does. A good parent does their own sex ed at home. And so every time before sex ed class, I was excused to go sit in the library. So it was just like, it never stopped. It was always embarrassing because not only had they read this letter.
They read the letter each time. They're like, just to remind everybody.
Jacqueline's talking about sex with her mom every day. She doesn't have to be here. And then they would just excuse me from class. And I wanted to die every time it happened. This has nothing to do with Southwood, but the other night, Aaron, my 8-year-old, came to me, and he's not interested as much about like how babies are made or anything like that. He always asks me, how do you not have a baby? Like, how do you prevent? Which is so odd to me, like why that's his biggest concern. I think he's truly like, I never want to have kids. But he'll always ask me, like, how does a mom and dad not have a baby? How do you prevent a pregnancy? And he's asked me so many times. And I can only say like, well, there's an operation and blah, blah, blah. So last night I have this book, this science book that with really in-depth drawings. And I was like, look, kid, we're going to do this and we're going to do it now. We're never going to speak of it again. And I went through the entire thing. And in this book that I got, it's supposed to teach them in a scientific way. And at the very beginning of the book, it says, this is a science book. And scientists never say ew or gross. Scientists only say, that's interesting. And so if while you're reading the book, you feel like you want to say gross, just look at your parent and say, that's very interesting. And so as you read the book and you're showing them every picture of like every process, Erin's just like, that's really interesting. Oh, wow. That's interesting. So interesting. So, moral of the story, I don't need to rely on public education to teach my child.
You will write a letter.
I will write a letter, and he needs to go to the library every time they have class.
Is there any memory to you that like you remember Southwood and you're like, was that really the way that education was supposed to go? Or is that really like, was that really okay? Like, do you have anything in your brain that pops out as like, that was weird?
Well, Beardo 649's got to be up there pretty high.
He also just reminded me of another thing with Mr. Blakelock. He ran a football league, like an intramural football league, and we were named all of the Canadian University, like their team names, and he made us play by the CFL rules. So for if you're in the US, you probably are completely unaware that Canada has its own football league. There's like 3 teams and they play with a different size ball. The goalposts are different. The field is different. There's different rules. But he made us play by those rules. We'd be out there like playing NFL rules because that's what everyone of course was watching on TV and wanted to be. And he would come out and he would make us play. He's like, 3 downs. The goalposts are here. Here's the ball that you're using. He would like make us use
the Argos would never do this.
Yeah, exactly. Like the Calgary Stampeders.
One thing that I was, when you said something that probably wasn't okay or the way education was supposed to be, I actually had a conversation just the other day. I had a FaceTime with one of my elementary school friends. We went to Southwood Park together. We met in 4th grade and we've been friends ever since. She was literally in my wedding. But we got talking about like what it was like in Southwood. And she was like, do you remember when the teachers would let you mark everybody else's tests? And I was like, yeah, that seems normal. And she was like, no, Jacqueline, that wasn't normal. Like, imagine how like messed up all the rest of the kids in the class felt when you were sitting at the teacher's desk.
They're equal.
Marking their math homework and their English homework. And I was like, well, sorry, I was everybody's favorite.
Sorry, I was a top performer and you were not.
We talked about it at lunch when we were getting our mac and cheese.
in the teacher's staff room. You remember just going there, just smelling burnt coffee. Dude, I can smell it right now. I'm still looking at pictures as we've been talking. This is incredible.
It's crazy.
There was in grade 5, there was a grade 5. Oh man, all these stories are coming flooding back. I wish we had more time. So a couple things. So grade 5, I was in a grade 5-6 split and I was friends with a lot of the older kids because they were friends with Dan, who was a year older than them. And like, there was this like weird crossover that happened. But I remember our grade 5 teacher, Mrs. Brown,
I remember Mrs. Brown.
She fell down the stairs in Southwood and like missed a year of teaching. And so we had substitute teachers like literally just for like the entire year. It was like just a rotation until they tried to find one.
Ryan, this is going to blow your mind, but I had her for 4th grade and she had an operation on her leg. And we also only had substitute teachers for a whole year.
What? So that year, every day, do you know what we would do? At the time, we were getting ready. The big school trip that year was to go watch Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat.
Yep. Which we performed.
Yes, we also, well, you performed. The entire year we just drew a scene, like just a giant mural of Joseph and the Amazing Tech. Every day we were doing this, like literally every day we would draw for like 4 or 5 hours. And she would do this thing when Mrs. Brown was there. She, did this thing where it was like calligraphy and calisthenics combined. And I forget what it was called. I forget what it was called, but she would put on this music and you would draw to the music. There'd be these like shapes, these like paths and these shapes that you'd be drawing. I think it was like in preparation for us to do cursive writing. Oh my God. That was a thing. but you would write to music, and then you would finish that and she'd be like, all right, back to the mural. And then like the science, not the science teacher, substitute teacher then would just like carry that on. She'd be like, all right, looking at Mrs. Brown's plan, you guys are drawing murals for 4 hours today? And we're like, yep, that's what we do. That's what we do here. Yeah. So anyway, what I'm trying to say is for Jacqueline to be the top performer of her class, the bar was extra low.
The bar was low. And when you're young and you think these teachers are so much older and wiser, and now you're just like, these teachers were kids and these kids are just trying to get through the day, and some of them did it better than others, let's be honest.
Yeah, but it is like a really like, I think we've talked about this before, and I'm sure there's still a few more stories that we might be able to get through, but it's not an experience that is unique to us, right? Mm-hmm. Like you talk to any kid, they'll tell you about their urban legends, the gossip about teachers, the teacher that lived in their car, or the teacher that is dating that teacher, which they probably were. Like they probably were because they're adults and they can date each other outside of the school. Like all of that stuff, right? They did a first aid class in they did a first aid class when I was in grade 7. And I remember the teacher's name was Mr. Mash. I totally remember his name was Mr. Mash. And instead of just teaching us CPR, he also told us like all of the stories that I guess like he'd either been like he'd firsthand witnessed or that he'd heard people witness that were totally inappropriate for like 13-year-old kids. He's like, one time I watched this woman get trapped between a garbage truck and a wall. And because the garbage truck was pinned so tightly against her torso, the paramedics decided that if they pull the truck away, she'll die instantly. So they had to call her entire family to come and say goodbye to her while she was pinned against the wall. And then they moved the garbage truck and she died instantly. I'm like,
thanks, Mr.
Does anyone else think this is wildly inappropriate for a 13-year-old to hear?
And likely untrue.
Yeah, it was just absolutely untrue. But anyway.
I think if I was able to encapsulate like my Southwood Park experience into 2 words, it would be the words pizza day. And I'm not sure if we talked about pizza day before in the past. Pizza day has remained like, I would say a touchstone of my entire personality.
I'm laughing, by the way, if you can't tell.
For the last 35 years, I would say, maybe even longer than that. At Southwood Park, once a month, you were allowed to have pizza day. And pizza day, they would send around these little envelopes the day before, and you would mark what kind of pizza you wanted and what you wanted for your drink. Your parents were supposed to put the money in the pizza day envelope, and then you brought it back. And then that special day, they would bring pizza. Canadian schools, or at least at that time, Canadian schools didn't have cafeterias. We didn't have school lunch programs. So pizza day was a big deal because otherwise you either went home for lunch or you brought your lunch to school if you couldn't do that. So pizza day was a big deal. And oftentimes, just like pizza day, there are 5 kids in our family. It just wasn't going to happen for us. And oftentimes mom and dad would just be like, it would be cheaper for us to just order an entire pizza and you guys could just come home and eat it. And so I learned to be deflective, I guess would be the word about pizza day. I'd get the envelope and I knew very well I probably wouldn't be getting anything back, but I'd still circle everything that I wanted because that's what everyone was doing when you were filling out your pizza day envelope. I know, like, I'm not bringing this back. There's not going to be money in this envelope tomorrow. But then I'd really start to talk up my options that were not pizza day. And it was like, I wanted people to feel bad, first of all. I wanted people to feel bad and I wanted to feel superior. And in feeling superior, I would probably start a week before pizza day and start to make comments about, campaigning. Like, it's stupid only having one slice of pizza. It's the best having a whole pizza to yourself. It's really gross. The chocolate milk the school serves you. I only drink ginger ale at home. And so by the time pizza day rolled around, it was very clear that I was going home for lunch and not getting pizza. I had been so conspicuous about the fact that I was not getting pizza and that I was proud. I was proud not to be getting this pizza. Like, you suckers, you lemmings at Southwood Park Public School eating your pizza at your desk. I'm going home. I'm having 6 pizzas by myself. And I guess my family just loves me a little bit more. Like, bye, see you later, suckers. And then I go home and eat a bowl of cereal like I would every day at lunchtime. But I always think about that as like kind of like a metaphor about still act, anytime I feel even the slightest bit inferior, instead of being like, you know what, this person might know more than me, or this person might have better life experiences than me. I'm like, this loser over here. And I deflect, I campaign, and I'm still very good at it to this day. And I'd like to thank Southwood Park for making Pizza Day a thing, because it taught me how to be a thriving human being with zero psychological problems whatsoever.
Well, the best part is, I said there's a divide probably the year after me where that, like, Pizza Day for us, it would be like, maybe I would start like that, but then my buddies would be like, yeah, we can't afford that, so I'm going home. Yeah, we're broke, we can't afford that. I'm like,
must be nice.
All right, cool. So like we would leave for Pizza Day when it's like, all right, if you're not staying for Pizza Day, you can get up and go. And like, I swear, half the class would get up and go. Like I'd see me and all of my friends would stand up, right? Or a group of them at least. Caesars. Yeah, or go to Little Caesars. Yeah, like at least a group of us. Yeah, get some free Krispies. Which still, they may have been called Crunchies, but Krispies because for
either way,
but
fine.
Yeah, or you would go out to like you would leave the classroom, get out into like the playground area, and you'd see a bunch of friends already from another class or whatever that were also going home for Pizza Day, because it was just like expected that you are going home for Pizza Day because of whatever you got.
I just think if I was gonna say like what I learned at Southwood probably is like a real like just like drink your own Kool-Aid mentality. Like, yeah, I'll fake it till I make it. Yeah, I mark other people's essays. Yeah, I get to be the camp counselor for kids my own age. Like, even though I think I was probably mocked pretty badly for those things, like I liked feeling special. I liked feeling superior. And so that's kind of what I did. After I was president, then we were both valedictorian. We told our beautiful animal stories for our valedictorian speeches. Like I liked that. What was the biggest bummer was going to high school and realizing that I wasn't special anymore.
Sure, and that hits you right in the face on
like
day number one. Yeah.
Like
but I was valedictorian, right? Like
that matters, right? It matters here.
We're
teenagers.
I'm marking your guys' tests, right? They're like, sorry, sit down. What are you thinking? No, you're not doing this.
So if you were able to encapsulate like what you learned, or how, kind of going back to this everything I needed to know I learned in kindergarten. What were the lessons? What was something that you learned that you're like, this actually formed a core part of my being that I still utilize to this day?
I don't own any kick butt t-shirts. I do not own a single one. I do not.
Yet I still play a red butt, which was a ball wall game.
And maybe this is everyone for elementary school. But the thing that actually jumps out to me about elementary school, so for those like 7 or 8 years that you're in elementary school, like there are some pretty cool experiences that we had with teachers. Grade 7, Mrs. Taylor would make me the reeds for the bassoon that she was borrowing from the high school so that I could play the bassoon. Or Mr. Weidrich like playing, rock and roll for us and getting us to sing Cats in the Cradle instead of Hot Cross Buns, right? Or Miss Ross
reading books to us that I know now would probably be banned, but were like, I would say, foundational for my own belief system.
And she'd be crying, like, I hope I can put that other, but like watching it like an adult, like being like crying while reading the book because it was impacting her. And you'd be like, Miss Ross, why? And then she would explain why. And then like those kinds of things, like weirdly enough, have like kind of stuck, which is
for sure.
So bizarre that like there are like, so my takeaway is this, and this is probably people don't tune in for this kind of stuff. The person doesn't tune in for this kind of stuff.
We'll tell them what they tune in for.
Yeah, we'll tell them. But that like there are ways for kids to get it. Like there is a community, right? And I think that was it. Like for me, the way that the teachers seemingly did actually care. Like, do you know what I mean? Like we joke about a lot of stuff on here. We talk, but I think elementary school for me was like there were a lot of people that cared about kids going out into the world with a good head on their shoulders, I guess, and knowing the type of kids, especially again like up until our grade, that there were kids that were like. Maybe they had 2 parents at home, maybe not. You could probably make guesses about the finances at home, like those kinds of things. And it was still just a pretty like overall good experience for all of us. So that's like all of the funny stories and Beardo 649, Flat Earth, Hakas at a basketball game, like all of that stuff aside, like I think it was like a pretty fun little community experience.
Yeah, I think to this day, I think public school and public education is extremely important, mostly because I love the idea of so many people from just a real spectrum of backgrounds, including the teachers coming in and, like you said, being part of the community. We were from a widely blue-collar neighborhood, and the teachers were likely as blue-collar as we were too. And so, knowing that everybody was kind of on the same team at that elementary school, and you graduate, you go into high school, everybody kind of disperses into it, but you could tell, like, one thing about Southwood Park, it was a good school. You know what I mean? You could tell which kids were from Southwood Park. When you went to Exeter, they
had an ankle bracelet. They had an ankle monitor on. They had an ankle monitor on, and they're like, all right, you're definitely from Southwood.
They were cosplaying as teachers. But yeah, it was a good school, and it turned out good kids and good people.
Yeah, again, I think there was a division somewhere in there, but yeah, I think so. And so I'll finish with this, and it's more of like, it's not like a single story, but it was an experience that happened every year. And I don't know if, I know for a fact they don't do this anymore. The last few days of August, going into the first couple of days of September, when school starts the following week in Canada where we grew up, like in Ajax where we grew up, school starts the first day after Labor Day weekend. Mm-hmm. And that nervous excitement, tension that starts to build in that last week of August, knowing that at Southwood, they're going to tape up pieces of paper onto the windows that show you which class you're going to be in. And you going out onto the street, walking to the school and seeing like other friends and other people, and you like gathering around the window, like running your hand down a list of names.
Gosh, I forgot about this.
To see which class you're going to be in for the following year, and then either being like excited or disappointed, seeing if your friends are in the same class, like that whole like end of summer like encapsulament, if that's even a word, like that single memory like encapsulates what it was like going to Southwood Park in Ajax in the late 80s, early 90s, like walking to school, like which class am I going to be in? Like, oh, here we go.
It's a high I think you'll be chasing for the rest of your life. There's nothing that will compare ever.
Yeah, that and winning Beardo 649.
That too.
Or like a raffle, like a bake sale raffle.
I won a raffle once. It was like the best thing of my life. Did you guess the amount of jelly beans?
Did you guess the right amount of jelly?
I got an entire mason jar of jelly beans. I carried it home so carefully.
Which Dad later painted in the design of a cow.
Yeah, so it matched the rest
pattern,
of
so it matched the rest of your room.
Okay, well, I'm glad that Southwood is still alive and well to this day.
Yeah, like I said, I'm on their Facebook page. It looks like there have been 0 renovations to the outside of the exterior of the building. It looks the exact same, but pictures of like...
Does it still have the pink and purple?
No, because their colors have changed.
Pink and purple?
No, their school colors have changed, so it's no longer pink and purple. They don't have those two little like half circles in those colors. But I think I even saw like a snow day announcement, which is like a ton of emotion was just drummed up. The gym has not been extended at all. That little wooden pull-up bar on the side of the stage is still there as of...
What is it for?
Pull-ups, which no elementary school kid can do, by the way.
No, of course not. Did you want to share with the class what role you played in the school play?
I was the wizard in The Wizard of Oz.
I feel like that says everything. It tells you everything.
I was in the change room with a microphone because they couldn't see me. I was supposed to be like behind the scenes. And I think the only reason I was the wizard because it was the only non-singing role. And I was like, I do not want to sing at all. Like I would just be
That's what they did with me later. But I was also a munchkin. Always in Ryan's shadow.
Riding my coattails.
Try coattails.
This is it. Gifted. I was in the gifted program. All right. I think we've established that.
Perfect.
Jeez. The amount of, and I can't even edit half the stuff because it's like so embedded into like a sentence. I just got to like, all right, I guess we're putting this one out there too.
With curtails in it.
Curtails. You're just riding my curtails.
Curtail means
maybe I was saying with an accent.
Something completely
I
different.
totally know that, but maybe we just say I was saying with an accent. Riding my curtails.
Which accent?
That one that I just did, which
you spent a lot of time in Kentucky as a child.
Riding my curtails all the way to the top.
All right. Well, nothing but love for Southwood Park.
Southwood Park, I'm coming back for you. I'm going to go back there one day.
If people want to message us or email us with like their best elementary school story, I would love
Please. Yes, please, because I know there's so many things. If I could have prepared for this one, this is the downfall of this format.
I know. Didn't once happen in kindergarten that you went to the bathroom in your pants and then the teacher put your...
That was Daryl. He wanted to play at the sand table and he was too excited to play at the sand table that he didn't go to the bathroom. He crapped his pants. He cried. I told the teacher. He went in and he came back to continue playing because the teacher gave him his crappy underwear, actually crappy underwear, into his Ziploc bag. He's like, don't worry, I'm just put it in a Ziploc bag. I can still play with you. I'm like, thanks, bro. I don't need you here.
The way Daryl is catching strays all the time on this podcast.
No, this is a different Daryl. This is a different Daryl. That was... Because remember, I mistakenly identified Daryl, Dan's friend, as the puker in the blue van in a previous episode. Yeah. But no, it was actually Drew that puked in the van. So anyways, yeah.
No, Southwood, nothing but high bar content from us week after week. Are you ready for an unhinged text from our family member?
I am ready.
So did Jonathan tell you about when he got stuck in an elevator?
No.
Recently?
No.
Recently? Okay.
Like, how recent?
Like just before he moved to London.
No, please tell.
Okay, I got a text from Jonathan at 10:08 p.m. one night. And it just said, so I got stuck in an elevator for 2 hours tonight. I said, what? Where? Also, instant panic attack just hearing about this. Jonathan said, at work. I stayed late to work and then went to go get a snack. And when I went to go take the elevator back to the office, it just stopped. I said, this makes me sweaty. What did you do? That it was 8:30 when it happened. And then I was rescued at 10:30. Also, my phone died. I said, no, stop.
No.
I know. He said I had 4% when it happened. So I called the alarm thing on the alarm thing on the elevator and they were like, we'll call the technician, but we have no idea how long it'll be since it's nighttime. I said, what did you do to stay calm and pass the time? And this is the most Jonathan thing ever. He said, I learned 1 to 10 in Braille by looking at the buttons of the elevator. It was so boring. And I said, you would learn another language. He said, if my phone wasn't dead, it legit would have been relaxing. I also fully laid on the ground because I read that if an elevator falls, that is the safest position. And then I realized that I'm an almost 40-year-old just laying on the ground of an elevator, and that was weird on a Wednesday.
I would love to see that as like a hidden camera where you do it not just with Jonathan, but you get every member of a family. And over the course of 12 months, you give them all the same situation to see how they would all respond.
They all react.
I would just have fluid coming out of I would be like throwing up, peeing, poo. I would just be like, this is how I can't hold anything. Like I would just literally like wouldn't be able to I wouldn't be able to at all.
I would convince myself that it was Mission Impossible and I could probably take the top off the elevator and climb up through the shaft or something like that. Because I'm like, I can fix it.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Unless there was somebody else in there with me. If there was somebody else in there with me, I would be the hero. Last Southwood Park story. Okay, because it's totally just drummed this up for me. Southwood Park, grade 7. In grade 8, there's this kid named Dwayne. He's a friend of mine because I play basketball. He's a big man in grade 8. He's like Dwayne. 6 foot something. He's dunking in grade 8, just to put that in perspective. And it was winter. There's all these kids playing on the ice, and he was kicking their feet from underneath them, right? So he would slide his foot really fast to hit their feet. They would go flying. They land on the ice, and he was just doing this to everyone, just kind of bullying them. And they come and get me. The grade 7 kids come and get me. They're like, yo, Ryan, you're friends with Dwayne. He's doing this. Like, you got to go tell him to stop. I'm like, Dwayne's doing that? Yo, I'll move out of the way. Let me go talk to this guy. So I go step on the same ice patch as Dwayne because I'm now the rescuer. All right? You guys, I've got this. I will solve this for everybody. All right? I'm like, yo, Dwayne, what are you doing, man? Don't do this. And he looked at me and there was this like look in his face like, and now I got to do this to you too. I was like, Dwayne, what? I didn't even get a chance. He turbo kicked my feet. I flipped up, smacked my head on the ice, and now I'm like, okay, well, I can't. No, I stood back up. Like, I'm like, yo, what do you? He just did it again. I stood up, did it again, stood up, did it again. He must have done it 12 times. And then I eventually, because they came to me to save them. And Dwayne just...
This is my role now. I have to do this.
Until the bell rang, until the recess bell rang. And Dwayne just kind of shrugged his shoulders like, all right, I'm going back in. And I was like, me too, actually.
And then Like, do you want to hang out later?
We went and play basketball 2 hours later. So, anyway, so yes, unless there was someone else in the elevator that I had to like keep it cool for, I would lose my mind.
Daniel would just punch a hole in the panel with all the numbers on it.
Or sell the emergency person a car. He'd be like, talk to me about the car.
As long as like they're like, oh, sorry, like we'll be there, but this car isn't going very fast. And he's like, you know what? Car would go fast. The one I sell you. How would Dallin react?
Pictures. He would take pictures. He would turn it into like a party.
Just selfies.
He would like tape lights to make it look like it was like more atmospheric than it actually. Like, there was
like,
better.
Stuck in an elevator. LOL. Live stream it.
Yeah. So anyway, thank you for bringing this topic of Southwood Park. I was not expecting those stories in the dusty corners of my brain
to come out of you.
Yeah. I'll need a nap after this one.
I do need you. I'm going to give you a heads up for the next one because I do need you to prepare for it. We are going to go into Saturday the 14th.
Oh, okay. I need to figure out how I can make that happen.
I know. Awesome. We need to figure out how to watch it. What I
need to rent a VCR.
The internet that we can find to do this with, but we are going to find it. It might not be the best quality, but we are going to watch Saturday the 14th and discuss.
Can't wait. All right. Well, thank you to everyone who made it this far. Sorry, I feel sorry for you for making it this far. And also shout out, thank you Southwood Park and all those lovely teachers that made that a place.
Best teachers. We love you.
Also, rest in peace, Bear.
See you on Facebook.
See you on.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. See ya.